As Cowboy Ron Bass said last week, the Long Riders get even. And tonight, they do. Thanks for tuning into another episode of Tyler Vance Rants. I am your host, Tyler Vance himself, and you're not. It's January 19th, 1985. Last week, Jim Crockett Promotions celebrated 50 years in the professional wrestling business. Ricky Steamboat went to the aid of the pride of the USA, Don Kernodle, but ultimately paid the price for those actions, being attacked from behind by the Russian Bear and the Russian Nightmare, Ivan and Nikita Koloff. WWF champion Hulk Hogan continued to train Hillbilly Jim to mixed results, and Dick Slater assaulted the man that I quoted at the opening of the episode, the NWA Mid-Atlantic Heavyweight Champion and co-holder of the NWA Mid-Atlantic Tag Team Championships with Black Bart, Cowboy Ron Bass, along with his manager, James J. Dillon. We'll dive right into the hotbed of action and controversy with the NWA's Worldwide Wrestling program. And immediately backstage, David Crockett interviews half of the NWA World Tag Team Champions, the American Dream Dusty Rhodes, who's hungry for more championship gold, baby. You see, those bags that Rhodes has brought with him are full of silver dollars.
These are, that's right, Susan B. Anthony, silver dollars.
Susan B. Anthony, boy, she was a good girl, baby.
$10,000 worth of them, all in an effort to tempt the NWA television champion Tully Blanchard to putting the title on the line. So much for totally devoting yourself to defending the NWA World Tag Team Championships that you promised your partner, the Raging Bull Manny Fernandez, you would do. Considering you're so enamored and obsessed with singles accolades, you might as well just forfeit the NWA World Tag Team Championships. Speaking of Manny Fernandez, he's in action first against Doug Vines, while crotchety David Crockett and Tony Schiavone call the action. Two dropkicks start things off in the Raging Loser's favor before a crossbody knocks Vines down. Manny Fernandez simply heads up to the top rope from there and drops a knee down onto the head of Doug Vines to walk away with an easy win. Backstage, crotchety David Crockett talks to a man who's not happy in Avalanche Buzz Tyler. And why isn't he happy? Well, Tyler is upset about what Black Bart, half of the NWA Mid-Atlantic Tag Team Champions alongside his counterpart Cowboy Ron Bass, said about him last week, as well as Bart's actions on Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling.
This was given to me through a lot of love, and I was proud of it, and I'm still proud of it.
It's just a shirt, bro. Get a new one.
Black Bart, believe me, you gonna pull the evil out in Buzz Avalanche Tyler.
The culprit behind last week's heinous hit-and-run assault on both Cowboy Ron Bass and James J. Dillon, Dick Slater, is in singles competition next. Slater's up against the Inferno, and just to show you how stupid Dick Slater truly is, look at him try to throw the Inferno over the top rope, only to realize at the last second, oh gee, that would cause me to be disqualified, duh. How Dick Slater is able to breathe and walk at the same time is a complete mystery. Instead, Dick Slater throws the masked man through a different set of ropes, down to the floor. Slater then goes on to help the Inferno back into the ring the hard way via suplex. At the commentary booth, James J. Dillon makes an appearance, and he announces that he's brought one of the best, if not the best, pro wrestling bounty hunters with him, former NWA World Heavyweight Champion Terry Funk.
It's not more money than I've ever seen before, but it's enough.
This is it. Dusty Rhodes, you and your criminal accomplices are done for. If you want to say any last words to your friends and family, now's the time before Funk absolutely bodies you. Terry Funk is so eager to start that he says, you know what, why not right now? And makes a beeline for Dick Slater.
What's going on? Come on, Slater's fighting. He's fighting all three men.
It is 3-on-1. And look at this, David.
They got him up for the pounder.
Who has the last laugh now, Dick Slater? James J. Dillon. Several wrestlers predictably try to play hero, but the Long Riders, James J. Dillon himself, block them from interrupting Terry Funk's absolute masterpiece of a beating that he's inflicting on Dick Slater. Reinforcements arrive, and this time the Long Riders, Dillon and Funk, make a tactical retreat. But it doesn't matter. There's nothing left of Dick Slater worth remembering. I can't stop smiling. What we saw literally has just made my week. And what makes it even better is that after such a long and grueling search, Tully Blanchard has finally found his 10. Say hello to Baby Doll and eat your heart out. From a class act to one of the most beautiful women I've ever seen, we switch over to a loser that can't even land a date, as Assassin number 1 tags with Steve Casey to take on Jeff Sword and Ben Alexander. Assassin number 1 must be jealous of Tully Blanchard. Because when was the last time you heard me tell you that he did a drop kick? Clearly, the masked man wants Baby Doll to notice him. And how could she not? Look at the size of you, bro. Steve Casey gets the tag but gets cut off from his partner and suffers an elbow from Jeff Sword. The Brit fights back with a hip toss and manages to get the tagged in Ben Alexander up for an airplane spin into a Samoan drop for the win. Backstage once again, this time crotchety David Crockett is the uncle and nephew pairing of the Russian Bear and the Russian Nightmare. Ivan and Nikita Koloff standing by for an interview. Nikita Koloff is holding a trophy that he, his uncle, and a fellow by the name of Crusher Khrushchev won in a 6-man tag team tournament. Since winning the tournament, Ivan and Nikita Koloff both, as well as Crusher Khrushchev, have proclaimed that they will be the next NWA 6-man tag team champions. It's only a matter of time.
Nikita only speaks when he's got something to say, because he hates all Americans anyway.
Tony Schiavone takes over interviewing duties as he once again speaks to the NWA United States Heavyweight Champion, Chief Wahoo McDaniel. All the Chief wants is very simple. Ric Flair, the NWA World Heavyweight Champion, signs a contract to face the Chief with the NWA World Heavyweight Championship on the line.
Flair, I'm going to tell you one thing. I'll get you somewhere.
Again, it's only a matter of time. Despite his abhorrent behavior at the end of last week's NWA Worldwide Wrestling show, and despite my protests, Eagle from American Starship is being allowed an opportunity to win $1,000. All he has to do is break free of superstar Billy Graham's full Nelson. Oh, I get it. Superstar Billy Graham's manager, Paul Jones, is only allowing Eagle to give it his all because Paul Jones knows that Eagle is about to embarrass himself on international television. That's why Paul Jones is number 1. In order to win the prize, Eagle has to break free of the hold within 30 seconds or less. And he's already off to a bad start considering he refuses to allow Billy Graham to properly lock on the full Nelson. So Graham puts it on the hard way, even using the ropes in an attempt to gain an advantage. And even with the full Nelson not fully locked on, Eagle is still not able to break free from superstar Billy Graham's hold. Everybody point and laugh at the idiot. NWA United States Heavyweight Champion Chief Wahoo McDaniel must be the man, considering he's going to be interviewed twice in the same show, and is so mentally equipped to take on not only one interviewer, but a moronic interviewer in crotchety David Crockett. To his credit, Crockett asks a valid question. With Chief McDaniel so focused on winning the NWA World Heavyweight Championship from the Nature Boy, keyword in there is boy, Ric Flair, what about those vying for the NWA United States Heavyweight Championship? Chief Wahoo McDaniel lists off the names of several challengers.
Ronnie Garvin, the National Heavyweight Champion. Ole Anderson. Buzz Tyler.
All challengers that the Chief has beaten and therefore remained the NWA United States Heavyweight Champion. The Chief is a fighting champion, and that's why undoubtedly he is the man. The NWA Mid-Atlantic Tag Team Champions, the Long Riders, consisting of NWA Mid-Atlantic Heavyweight Champion Cowboy Ron Bass and Black Bart, face off against the NWA World Junior Heavyweight Champion Denny Brown and Tommy Lane in a non-title tag team match next. Calling it a match is really a disservice to the Long Riders. It's more like a demonstration, as a quick power slam from Bart on Lane ends the match in the Long Riders' favor. James J. Dillon makes his way from the victorious Long Riders in the ring all the way backstage to speak to crotchety David Crockett, who also has Terry Funk standing by with him. Dillon and Funk have a troubled history, and neither man likes the other very much. Despite this, Dillon was able to put his personal grievances aside when considering hiring bounty hunters, and opted to go with Terry Funk for one simple reason: he is the best. Considering what we saw Terry Funk do to Dick Slater earlier, it only confirms one thing. Once again, James J. Dillon is on the mark. Terry Funk gets personal satisfaction from being paid. Hey, don't we all? And asks for payment for services rendered when it concerns Dick Slater, before Funk outlines his next target.
I want that steroid freak. The one with all the muscle, Steamboat.
It took three of you, right?
Why don't you shut up, Crockett?
Keep your mouth shut, David Crockett, or you'll wind up as just another victim of Terry Funk. The main event of Worldwide Wrestling sees NWA Television Champion Tully Blanchard, who's brought Baby Doll with him, put the NWA Television Championship on the line against Mike Davis, and as the bell rings, Davis immediately tries to roll Blanchard up, getting a near fall in the process. The Shame of the USA, Don Muraco, joins guest commentary while Tully Blanchard takes a moment outside of the ring to recuperate. As Davis slingshots Blanchard back inside the squared circle, Muraco goes on to state that he's going to continue fighting for the American people, namely against the Russians, Ivan and Nikita Koloff. Thankfully, that's all we have to hear from Don Muraco, as back inside the ring, Tully Blanchard attempts to fight back with a shoulder block, however gets caught in a body slam instead. The NWA Television Champion, though, is a fighting champion, and never gives in when the going gets tough. The champion manages to slam the challenger's head down into the mat, dazing him long enough for Tully Blanchard to hit Mike Davis with a slingshot suplex and win the match. So champion caliber is Tully Blanchard that after competing in such a grueling match, he still has time and strength to head backstage and allow crotchety David Crockett to interview him. Tully Blanchard addresses the American Dream Dusty Rhodes and his challenge at the beginning of Worldwide Wrestling, saying that Rhodes can name any kind of stipulation that he wants. Crying Ricky Steamboat got his nickname because he found out how unbeatable Tully Blanchard truly is.
How are you?
I'm doing just fine now that I'm with Tully. I've been here for about 4 or 5 days now. There aren't any women in the state at all. What are you going to say, huh?
You want me to say something about that?
Got any questions for me?
It's very evident the first time in your life you're finally speechless.
With Worldwide Wrestling now at an end, it's time to tune into the World Wrestling Federation's flagship show, Championship Wrestling. Vince McMahon and the living legend Bruno Sammartino greet us on commentary and call the action for the first match. RT Reynolds takes on Blackjack Mulligan in singles action. An arm drag takedown keeps Reynolds on his toes once the bell rings, and RT Reynolds then suffers a backdrop from Blackjack Mulligan coming out of the corner. Reynolds does little damage to the Blackjack with several hits in the ropes, but a single punch from Mulligan is enough to send RT Reynolds down. A boot then meets Reynolds as he comes off of the ropes before Blackjack Mulligan throws him down to the floor. Once back in the ring, a reverse elbow leads to an elbow drop and a 3 count for Blackjack Mulligan. The WWF update for the 3rd week in a row comes to us from Studio 54 in New York City, USA, but this time we're backstage with Captain Lou Albano, Cyndi Lauper and her loser boyfriend David Wolf, and the WWF champion Hulk Hogan, who the captain is completely proud of being a friend with. A friend who will drop his tree-trunk leg on top of your esophagus the moment you step out of line, brother. With not much more happening in the WWF update, we head back to more in-ring action as Jim Powers takes on Brutus Beefcake, who's accompanied by his manager, luscious Johnny Valiant. That fan should be ejected for such a disgusting sign. As the match begins, Powers gets into Valiant's face for clout, which allows Beefcake to attack him from behind before throwing Jim Powers through the ropes and down onto the floor. Yeah, strut your stuff, Beefcake. Jim Powers manages to crawl back inside the squared circle, where he and Brutus Beefcake trade body slams, but as Powers goes for a second one, Beefcake blocks it and is able to turn the favor of the match back in his corner, where he shortly wins after with a knee. Rusty Humpty Dumpty Brooks takes on the Junkyard Dog in more singles action next, where a headbutt from JYD knocks Brooks down for a 2 count. A clothesline from the Dog knocks Brooks down for another 2 count. And you know Humpty Dumpty is desperate when he throws himself off of the wall with a dropkick that misses and goes nowhere, except for a win for JYD following another clothesline. The Junkyard Dog does try to help the dazed Rusty Brooks to his feet, but then just ends up deciding to let Brooks fall down to the floor. What a good sport you are, you mangy mutt. It's back to more singles action next, as the Spoiler, accompanied by his new manager, luscious Johnny Valiant, takes on Salvatore Bellomo. Tyler, why is Johnny Valiant suddenly managing the Spoiler? I hear you ask. As you know, the Spoiler was most recently managed by one Captain Lou Albano, but since the captain has decided he'd rather be a moron who thinks he's popular rather than a manager with money, the contract was bought out by luscious Johnny Valiant. Next time you ask me a question, ask permission. As the match gets underway, the Spoiler uses the ropes to catapult himself into an elbow smash on Bellomo. The masked man then walks the ropes before dropping a fist down onto the Italian's head, before yet again using the ropes, this time to strangle Salvatore. This prompts Salvatore Bellomo to fight back like his life depends on it with a standing dropkick. Even that, however, is not enough to stop the Spoiler, who heads up to the top rope and latches the claw onto Salvatore Bellomo's head, forcing him to submit. Piper's Pit is next, and this week Rowdy Roddy Piper's guest is Tito Santana.
I'm not used to having has-beens like you on my pit. A former Wait, brother.
It's been about a year since Santana last appeared on the Pit, so it's understandable that he thinks he can still get away with behavior like this. Things have changed, pal. Hot Rod goes on to criticize Tito Santana's loss of the WWF Intercontinental Championship to Greg the Hammer Valentine, and the topic quickly focuses on Santana's recent usage of the figure 4 leg lock, the very same move that Valentine used in that championship match to not only win, but also severely injure Santana's knee.
I know the figure 4 leg lock myself now, Piper. You figure that you could make someone give up on the figure 4? Well, would you like to try it, Mr. Piper? Ace, come here. Come here, Ace. Come here. You go ahead and take my place. Stop! Stop!
No, he didn't. Bob Orton managed to withstand the pain, and Tito Santana should be absolutely ashamed of himself for blatantly trying to injure Cowboy Bob Orton. I want Tito Santana fined, and I want him suspended. Bobby the Brain Heenan's clients, the Giant John Studd and the World's Strongest Man Ken Patera, team up once again to take on Jim Young and Paul Roma in tag team action. Before the match gets underway, Bobby Heenan reminds everyone of the $15,000 reward to anybody that can successfully body slam the Giant John Studd. Of course, Paul Roma immediately tries to take advantage of this, except he fails, which prompts John Studd to directly challenge Jim Young to give it a shot, but he too fails, and this time John Studd rewards him with a body slam for his efforts. Roma gets double teamed in enemy territory and proceeds to be absolutely dominated by the combined power and superior teamwork of Studd and Patera. Young hesitantly accepts the tag, and he goes on to suffer a delayed vertical suplex from Ken Patera before a reverse backbreaker from John Studd forces Jim Young to submit.
People in America, in your heart out, we have the most beautiful woman in Hawaii.
All you have to do is look in the mirror at yourself and be sick and be jealous because I'm here and you're there.
I am jealous. Not only do I wish I was in Hawaii with Don Muraco, I wish I was Don Muraco. The main event of WWF Championship Wrestling sees Johnny Rodz take on WWF Champion Hulk Hogan in a non-title match. And as the match gets underway, Hogan manages to overpower and shove Rodz into the corner, frustrating him. Brutus, Beefcake, and his manager, Luscious Johnny Valiant, make an unannounced appearance and cause so much of a distraction to Hulk Hogan that the Hulkster argues with the referee that the duo be ejected. I don't think so. Johnny Valiant has a manager's license, and who's to say that he's not down there scouting talent in Johnny Rodz? Valiant can even be heard shouting free advice to Rodz throughout the entire match.
Right hand, it finds its spot.
As for Brutus Beefcake, he's simply there to protect his manager from the WWF champion. Thanks to Luscious Johnny Valiant's advice, Johnny Rodz is not only able to rake the face of the Hulkster, but he goes then up to the second rope and drops a forearm down onto the WWF champion. Rodz even gets a near fall following a falling headbutt, but Hulk Hogan goes on to pump himself up with the help of the crowd, ignoring the pain of his opponent's onslaught. From there, it takes mere seconds for Hulk Hogan to hit his atomic leg drop on Johnny Rodz to get the 3 count. With that, another week comes to an end. However, there were a couple of things that I wanted to address that I really didn't have anywhere else to put. On the WWF secondary show All-Star Wrestling, Jesse the Body Ventura replaced King Kong Angelo Mosca as the show's color commentator, with Mosca announcing that he would be going on to manage his newly arrived to the WWF son, Angelo Mosca Jr. Mosca Jr. would debut later on during that episode of All-Star Wrestling and won a match against Ted Grizzly as Mosca Sr. watched on proudly. The WWF's Cobra Corps unit has been dissolved. With Sergeant Terry Daniels going MIA during 1984, that left Sergeant Slaughter all alone in the field. The Cobra Corps Commandant tried and failed to recruit new members to the Corps before his WWF chain of command informed Sergeant Slaughter that his services were no longer required. As a result, on last week's co-produced AWA NWA Pro Wrestling USA show, Sergeant Slaughter debuted and was concerned to find out about the existence of another Sheik besides the Iron Sheik, in Sheik Adnan Al-Qaisi. As Sergeant Slaughter waged war once in the WWF against the Iron Sheik, James J. Dillon's war against the American Dream Dusty Rhodes and his criminal enterprise obtained its first casualty in the form of Dick Slater, who was taken down at the hands of bounty hunter Terry Funk. The Long Riders got even. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Tyler Vance Rants. Get even by hitting the bell, liking the video, and subscribing. You can also follow me on social media, where it is 1985 in pro wrestling all over again. That's all for now, so I'll see you next week. So long. And it seems that the American Dream is I am jealous. Apparently I'm Sean Connery as well. I'm never gonna do that again. I'm so sorry.